transformation, transformation, transformation. We've heard the T word a lot today, haven't we? And we've definitely heard it a lot over the last year or so. And as we know, to achieve meaningful transformation, it requires the collective power of everyone, from employees to the supply chain, to the board, to investors, to customers. So today we're going to be exploring how we engage at every level to drive pace and to drive profitable change. Who am I? I'm Joss Ford, and I'll be moderating over the next hour and a half. It's my third time at Change now, and I run a communications agency called Enviral, and we're here to save the world from boring sustainability stories. As we know, engaging communications and storytelling is at the heart of transformation. But let's be honest, as an industry, we love a bit of jargon. And at Enviral, we think that we've got an epidemic of global yawning, because everything's a bit of a snooze fest sometimes. So hopefully we can talk about the role of creativity, and hopefully we can look at strategies to move forward quickly together. So first of all, we've got some brilliant people on our first panel. We've got Nancy, the CSO of Estée Lauder. We've got Carine, the Chief Impact Officer at EDF. And we've got John, the Global Head of ESG and UK ESG Vice Chairman at KPMG. So please welcome to the stage. Hi, everyone. How are we doing?
Hello.
Hi, hi.
Can you hear us in the back? Wave your hand if you can hear us in the back. All right,
Yeah.
Now we're doing well.
We love it. So let's do a quick round of introductions, shall we? What do you do? And I'm interested, one thing that you've been inspired by from Change Now so far today.
So I'm the Chief Sustainability Officer at Estée Lauder Companies. We're a big branded house of 25 great brands, and I oversee all of our environmental work, our social impact work, and our governance work, which means reporting. And one thing I'm very excited about is the people in the back can hear us. But more than that, the incredible sort of light and energy we're getting in this beautiful location, and the energy of the entrepreneurs in the backgrounds. For big companies like us, we need more entrepreneurism. So very excited to be here. Thanks, Josh.
Love it, Nancy. John, over to you.
Hi all. So Nancy's done the whole thing of can you hear in the back, because it's really noisy, right? But anyway, hi. I'm John McCallalisi. I'm a partner at KPMG, one of the vice chairman KPMG in the UK, but I'm also global head of ESG. What does that mean? We operate in about 143 countries. We've got 300,000 team members. I am responsible for all of the client delivery work that we do. We do about 1 million audits or so a year. So all of the ESG related assurance work. We've got nature people, climate people, you name it. So any issues there, you come and see me. I'm only joking. Anyway, that's what I'm responsible for. What am I excited about? Really just the breadth and the depth of the entrepreneurs here. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. I had a quick walk around beforehand, from optimizing batteries to reducing waste, you name it, everything here. So I love the energy, and I'm pleased also that you can hear us at the back.
Carine, over to you.
Hi, I'm Carine. I'm the Chief Impact Officer of EDF. EDF is the electricity company in France. One thing I'm very excited is that I met Theo. Here is Theo. And do you know who is Theo? So he's volunteering as a state manager, but he's one of EDF employees who took holidays to volunteer here during the 3 days. So
let's get a round of applause.
That's
Love
engagement for you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I love it. Well,
And without him, we wouldn't be here, right? Or we might have tripped on the way up.
So guys, I'd like to get some industry perspectives from you when it comes to transformation. I think from both the progress and the challenges lens, changing organizations and sectors throughout your whole supply chains internally must be super, super hard. 3 different types of organizations, very different approaches. Perhaps you can give us some examples of successful transformation initiatives that have progressed well and why they've progressed well. And I'm also interested to hear about the challenges. We know that this isn't easy. Let's talk about the elephants in the room, the roadblocks. And specifically, I'm interested in how we make those transformation initiatives happen in the first place. So, John, maybe we'll start with you, and what you're seeing and hearing from your clients at KPMG.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and hoping that you can all still hear me. It's very loud. I'm going to go with an example, okay? I'm going to work through this relatively quickly, but I think this example is really foundational to what we should all be doing, okay? In this case, a client, it's a mid-cap, it's a mid-sized business. It's based out of India. It's in the retail area. We did a whole raft of initiatives, many initiatives that I'm sure that you guys will be doing already, low-hanging fruit around renewable energy, PPAs, all of that good stuff, okay? But we also went to logistics optimization. We looked at their network hub, and it was just to optimize that. Did something really cool with their packaging, so their retail. So you got from plastic to plant-based. We measured it. We knew that it was lighter. We made the packaging smaller, and then we optimized and increased the numbers of packets that they can put in each carton. Why is that important? What it meant was when you put them into the trucks, they were lighter, they used less fuel. When you added up all of these initiatives that I just went through, overall, we got to an 8% emissions reduction. Now, here's the clever thing. 8% emissions, we connected that to EBITDA. So that's profit. We got 8% emissions reductions, 10% improvements in profits, and we're able to show that. Now, this business, their profit, their EBITDA was about 50 million. If you get a 10% improvement on 15 million, how much is that? Everybody can do maths, right? It's 5 million, right? 5 million. Now, this business was up for a transaction to be sold. If you got a 5 million improvement, the valuation was 5 times EBITDA. We just added 25 million of value through sustainability, okay? This is a real-life worked example, and this is a good example of where you're leaning into sustainability, you're leaning into transformation, but you're doing it in a way that is driving business performance and business results.
So you're really seeing the business case for it. I love it. And what challenges are you seeing? What are the things that we're not talking about?
Look, challenges, how long have we got? An hour? 2 hours? No, I'm only joking. Challenges are many right now. Immediacy bias is a challenge. 2021, if you were an investor call, all investor calls, they talked about ESG. If they didn't, what's your problem? Now, last year, they're all talking about AI. They move on to the next thing or next thing. So, you know, focusing on the long term, that's one. We were talking about this, I'm seated between two clients here, so I have to be careful about
we're hoping to get a discount by the end of the day.
Yeah, I have to be careful about what I say. But from a regulatory environment, from a regulatory landscape, it's really confusing, right? What are you complying with? What do you need to do? And clearly there are cost and performance pressures. And that's the reason why we surveyed a bunch of clients around the world just 2 weeks ago. And one of the key areas that they were struggling with was the business case for the work that they were doing. That's fundamentally in this. So that's why I gave that example. So that's the key challenge in the context of the confusion, the immediacy bias, the lack of clarity around reporting. If you have a robust business case, that's how you punch through those challenges.
Yeah, so stay stuck on one path and let's try and think about long-term thinking, not short-term thinking. Love it. Nancy, every time we've met, you've been spinning 10 different amazing plates all at once. Tell us, how's things at Estée Lauder?
Well, in terms of challenges, one of the things that we're all seeing is obviously the macroeconomic headwinds, right? So we've had many, many years of growth in the world, and as a result, it's been easier for companies to pay for sustainable practices. What we've really been focusing on now are what we call double wins. So we were, for instance, very early investors to wind energy. And just to give you an example, we've invested in windmills in Oklahoma where the wind comes sweeping down the plain very early in, and we both locked in the green energy and we basically created climate security. And over the period of time, not only are we carbon neutral over scopes 1 and 2, but we've made $5 million by selling energy back into the grid. I think one of the big challenges we have together is relevancy. How do we talk about this work in a way where A, you save money for the business, but in addition, the bottom line is that energy is scarce. We have energy risk and energy scarcity. So I think, to your earlier point, as we move forward together, we need to come up with a new languaging around the importance of this for the business and get rid of this notion that sustainability is expensive and that you have to have either sustainable packaging or great looking packaging. If you go out there, there's sustainable and great looking packaging, and I think we have to get rid of that trade-off. And then just lastly on investors, I actually do about 35 investor calls a year with governance teams.
Good luck.
Generally, I actually like investors, but generally what we see is that the investors are very aware that if you can manage to sustainability goals and attain them, then you are well managed. And I think we have to continue to integrate into the mainstream business.
Thinking about what are your double wins, I think that's a really great
double
thing.
win is the windmills, where the wind comes sweeping down the plane. So we have climate neutrality, and we've locked in energy. For some reason, the larger political dynamic around energy is very skewed, honestly. The reality is we don't have enough energy in the world. Also, another example, I was just out in Uvel in Belgium visiting a facility. Bringing supply chains closer together saves money and saves carbon. And so we have to talk, I think, about our work in the language of the business, and we have to integrate it into the business.
Really good takeaways, thank you. So Carine, EDF must have huge, complex transformation initiatives. What's been working, what's not been working at EDF?
Well, what's working, I think, is that, as Nancy said, we realize energy truly matters, right? We are the largest producer of electricity in the world without direct CO2 emissions. So it's a huge responsibility for us to continue to be there for the clients. But the question is, what use do we do of this electricity, right? How do you prioritize when you are in a scarce environment? Is it the hospital? Is it the AI? I mean, exactly as you say. So this is the political question that comes to a lot of the energy companies today. And it's very difficult, I think, to handle, because who are we to judge the use of electricity, right? But when you have to fight for it, you will have to prioritize how to use the energy. So I think this is what has been going on for us. The other thing which is very difficult is the time it takes to actually deploy capital in the energy system. So it's not because AI is growing super fast that there will be the decarbonized electricity in front of the demand, right? And so how do you articulate the short term and the long term? And I think this is something also that means that we also need to include some form of sufficiency. It's not just additionality. It's how do we become more sober in the use we do of energy as well, right? And I think this is a very big change of paradigm when your business model has been about selling electrons, and you have actually to think about, the circularity and the prioritization. So I think this is really what is at stake. But the good news is that everybody knows that energy is critical if we want to reach the net zero. So I think all the governments today have made it a priority to be independent, to be sovereign, to be net zero, and we are part of the solution.
I love that. What are the things, apart from the normalization of renewable energy, which has happened over the last few years, are you really excited by? Is there any innovation or tech within EDF that is helping that transformation journey?
I think the very exciting thing is moving from a pure climate perspective to a planetary boundaries perspective. So that means combining nature and climate, biodiversity, social. I think we always look at things in silo, and we can do very bad things for biodiversity when we do good for climate. And I think this is a very big change also in paradigm, but I think it brings a lot of benefits. When you do something good for nature, usually you see it more in a short term compared to climate. It's more visible, so you get people more empowered locally. And if you do good things for biodiversity, you can combine it with climate as well. So how to make it concrete. It can be very low-tech solution. It doesn't have to be high-tech, right? But it has to be local, in my view, for people to really get on board.
And tell me, your employees and your board, how do you get them on board with that deep level of mindset of progress?
I think we tried to go into every gap within the organization. So for sure, you have to start with the board, the executive committee. But I think when it comes to the employees, we tried two different routes. One is to use different medium. For example, we use arts. We have a foundation at EDF. We have art exhibition. And we use contemporary arts, for example, to talk about social and environmental issues like fake news, like sufficiency, like how to think about the future. We use dance. We use different means. And that's another way to touch people, right? Instead of the IPCC reports, which, you know, by the way, not everybody knows or not everybody reads, right? I think it's 25% the people who knows what IPCC stands for in France. So you need to go with different medium to touch people. The other ways is to identify executives that you can transform from a personal standpoint. So we took part in an initiative in France called the Climate Convention for Corporates. It was an imitation of the Climate Convention for Citizens, which happened after the Yellow Vest, you know, when we had this big crisis in France because of the higher carbon tax. And the idea is to bring together 150 executives during 8 months, and you get them to realize what is really happening, not just climate, the whole planetary boundaries, and they have to commit to a regenerative roadmap. 16 executives of EDF took part in that.
Brilliant.
And they have themselves a lot of employees in their structure, so that's the way they can really change from the inside.
John, how are you getting your clients to really buy into this and engage in transformation?
I'm a bit jealous about this whole dance thing. I think I need to talk about that later on. That sounds amazing. I'll answer twofold. Just really briefly first, what we're doing internally. Many people don't notice that the average age of KP auditor employees around from mid-20s to high 20s, a lot younger than we realise. So there's a real hunger and a real thirst for this topic. So it's recognising that. And what I mean by that, we invest significantly in training, in education, in upskill with Cambridge University, with European Business School, with New York Stern. And the reason why I mention this is we're a regulated business. We have to do training across a number of topics every year, but we see that we've got the highest uptake of non-mandatory training ever. So it's investing in people. So that's really, really important. It's And
how do you spot when you need to deploy training?
Well, because of our the work that we do, there are certain mandatory elements. So as I mentioned, we provide ESG assurance, so that's a regulatory requirement. But also, we continue to monitor and look at how this whole sustainability agenda is evolving. So we train. There's a lot of focus on the community aspect. So when I leave here this weekend, we're speaking to our network, 14,000 practitioners. We're doing a live virtual or hybrid town hall, a lot of focus on the community side, as we mentioned, and communication, storytelling, and so on. Just really briefly, in terms of our clients, one of the most critical things, and it's been alluded to here, is ensuring that you have the prolonged or consistent board level, senior level commitment. The same survey I referenced before showed that 88% of practitioners felt empowered to deliver on the agenda if they had the NED, board level and exec commitment. So that commitment piece is really important. Then there's what I call the nuts and the bolts. There's the hard yards, 3 things. You embed in the strategy, organizational strategy, in the financial goals. You have to be spending, investing money. When I speak to clients and say, are you serious about this? And they tell me yes, the first thing I do is show me the financials. Because if you're not spending money, I don't believe you. And then there's the whole operational side, goal settings, objectives, and so on. But one of the things, and I'll come back to what Nancy said, is so critically important. When you're really embedding and driving the change, it must go through at a business unit level. So the narrative, the language needs to be clear. If I'm a software developer, what do I need to do? If I'm a product designer, what do I need to do? I'm a management, if I'm leading in procurement, it's actually making it known, communications, making it real, in terms of making it specific to the individuals and making it stick, right?
To build off that, a key part of transformation is listening. And a lot of what we've been doing as a team is doing climate trainings. We just did one this morning with our EMEA leadership team. And we had scoped out for them what their footprint was on scopes 1, 2, and 3. And then we, by lever, identified, indirect procurement, digital services. And then what you really need to do is be a student of the business and listen to what are the decisions that they're making, how do we take our information on carbon and make that part of the discussion. So for instance, we're redoing our brand.coms, and as part of a climate hackathon, one of the younger folks on the online team said, well, there's something called lazy loading, which basically means that it is a less carbon intensive way to get the information out there. There's no way that our climate team would have known about lazy loading. And so I think the other aspect of sustainability is we really need to remain humble, understand candidly that businesses, particularly in this moment in time, with the geopolitical landscape, with inflation, are under a lot of pressure. We need to have empathy, and we need to listen, and we need to figure out, to John's point, how does value show up? Does value show up in cost savings? Does value show up in less process? One of the things we've been talking about in our company. So it is that double win, I think. The other is our employees, like their employees, can work wherever they want to work. The reality is this matters to employees, and we need to make sustainability everyone's job. And that also means recognizing within their financial rewards sustainability goals.
So tone from the top, speak in a business language, but also listen. I love that.
And listening.
Yeah. Just, look, change is really hard. Us human beings are really bad at having awkward conversations, which are often needed in transformation. The time is definitely ticking, but I would love to get I'd love to get your perspective on how you have those conversations in a really, really meaningful way when especially the business case for transformation isn't working.
I think you need, first of all, to be integrated, to sit shoulder to shoulder with your commercial colleagues and let them decide. I had a discussion this morning, what if a supplier is great on 5 things but bad on climate? Well, I need to give the respect to that leader that maybe he needs to choose that supplier. But then I meet them where they are, and I have a discussion over the next year. Gee, could you register with EcoVadis? So I think the question, meeting your business leaders where they are, as opposed to candidly being holier than thou or very absolute. But I have to tell you, the vast majority of employees, when we do trainings, they deeply care about this work. They talk about their families, they talk about their grandchildren, they talk about their children. So I think we also have to give our business leaders credit that they actually do care. They're trying to find out the way to yes is how.
Yeah. Okay, so 20 to 30 seconds each. One resource, tip, takeaway for people to take into their roles to engage their workforce in transformation over the next week. Carine, let's start with you.
Ask forgiveness rather than permission.
I love it.
Oh, wow, that was great. It's the value case. We see it typically through 2 lenses, value protect or value create. So being able to articulate really in a compelling way, what's the value case through those 2 lenses?
Love it.
I would repeat, the way to yes is how, and to work with your business leaders and stay humble.
I mean, that was pretty amazing. 13 seconds over. How great is that? Guys, I could...
Do we get started? By the way, can you still hear us in the back?
Yeah.
All right, then we did our job. Thank you for staying.
We could chat for hours and hours, but the train very much is moving. So everybody, if we could give our brilliant panelists a round of applause, that'd be brilliant.
Thank you, Josh. Well done. So we leave, you stay.
Now, thanks everyone. Into a conversation with Isabel Spiegel, the Vice President of Environment at Vinci. 285,000 employees in over 120 countries. So if you think your job in transformation is hard, you're going to be motivated by this session. Isabel, welcome to the stage. There we go.
Thanks.
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you.
So transforming such a large, complex organization must be almost impossible. Tell us who you are, what your role is, what you're responsible for, and ultimately, transformation isn't a destination, it's a journey. But where would you say Vinci are on that journey?
So definitely, luckily, I'm not alone because environment is everyone's job as well. So definitely, I'm here to guide everybody in this journey. So we decided, and the ton from the top was provided with clear target by 2030. But then what's making the difference is that we said that everything has to be really coming from the bottom line, so from the work sites, from the more than 4,000 business units that we have, etc. So my role is to make sure that people within our company are able to make informed decisions to run this transformation journey indeed. And because you already asked where do we stand in this journey, so we set some targets 5 years ago. By 2030, and definitely midway of this trajectory, we are on track. So if we look at the carbon trajectory of reduction of emissions, we are on track on the action plan as well. So it doesn't mean that it's easy. However, we are really proud to be a partner of Change Now this year to be able to show indeed the pragmatic solutions that we are able to come up with.
We were chatting over at your stand earlier, and you're a little plug for the stand. There you go. You're a decentralized company, which is a really interesting thing. Tell us, what is that? What does it mean? And has it been beneficial in helping you unlock change?
Yeah, and in fact, myself, I joined Vinci to really run this journey. And part of the reason why I joined this company is for the sector, for sure, but also because it's a decentralized company, a decentralized model. And what goes with decentralization is ownership. So when you talk about purpose, bring back purpose to people, etc., that's exactly what we are doing. And our business unit, our managers, our leaders, etc., and people on the ground are making informed decisions to embed purely environment within their daily operation. So that means that indeed, I'm here to provide expertise, training, means, support, etc., but not to make the decision at the place of people on the ground, of operational people. So that's really the benefit, is that with that, you have a bit of inertia, yes, that's for sure. However, climate change is really a global issue. So yes, we all share the same burden, challenge, way to calculate, etc. However, when we come to other topics on environment, water, biodiversity, resources, etc., it sticks to some local specificities. Our culture, regulation are not the same. Our expertise are definitely not the same. Our activities also not. So there's no one fit-for-all solution and way to do it. So to address this issue of it depends on the context, we said, okay, let's just train people, make sure that they are capable of making decisions that are informed decisions. And with that, it's just when we set the targets, we said, okay, we have 1 decade to make this huge journey. But we didn't explain in all the detail, you should start by this or this. No, you make the choice to start by your priorities, depending on your clients, your context, etc., etc. So, and that's what makes it quite powerful indeed.
Yeah, I love that autonomy, and it's a very interesting structure. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. And
which one?
Well, decarbonisation and the negative impact of construction on our natural world. Concrete, I think, emits around 8% of total global emissions. It's the second only to water most consumed resource on the planet. How does all this play into your wider plans?
So definitely that's a huge challenge. And if you take just figures, our calculation in terms of CO2 emissions means that the total CO2 linked to concrete implementation is close to 2 million tons of CO2. It's equivalent to our scope 1 and 2. So our direct emission linked to energy we are using or burning in our vehicles. So definitely it's huge. How to address this? So I'm quite happy. It's quite easy to do and to explain in 2025 because we have a huge low carbon concrete strategy, which is to implement 90% of low carbon concrete with Vinci construction project in all geographies. So, but to be able to do that, we had to experiment. So the first time we pour concrete without any cement, which is a carbonized material within the concrete itself, it was in L'Archipel, in our headquarters.
Oh, okay.
So it's a project financed by us, built by us, and with a partnership with a supplier of substitute for cement. And then we were able to do that 4 years ago to be able to understand, to go to the bottom of this solution, to understand the technicality, economic side, environmental calculations, etc., etc. And because it worked, we said, okay, let's now
So you're saying
expand
that your HQ is still standing, it's not fallen down?
Yes, exactly. And
Good.
we put our employees in it. So yeah, definitely. And it's working. So, but you need to lead through examples like that. And not every single project is able to accept this kind of very high level of decarbonization.
Yeah.
So another key is really to have a full service, a range of offering, in fact, to our clients. So we set up a matrix. We have low carbon, very low carbon, ultra low carbon concrete, and we let some room also for the clients to make choices or to adapt just the right formulation for the concrete, depending on the weather, for instance. So it means a lot of adaptation on the work sites for our people to get trained to use new materials. But we are achieving 60% of low carbon concrete already in our activities in France. So we are quite confident. We have still a lot to do, definitely, and I'm looking at one guy in charge of this here. But definitely we are making great progresses so far.
But it must be so expensive. And are your clients who are wanting construction willing to pay for that extra cost?
Well, that's why we have a full range of offering, in fact, with different categories. So the ultra low carbon concrete, yes, is more expensive. So we were able to sell it to clients who want to be pioneer themselves, I would say so. With a really high level of decarbonization, when there is an extra cost, usually it's clients who have innovation of sustainability funds. But then that's why also we make sure that everyone is able to afford for the first step of action. Because moving from well, it's too difficult, it's too expensive, etc., to already started to implement an action, even if it's not the 100% the best solution in environment, is already making a great step.
Yeah.
So when I was in Mexico to look at the first project where we did, there were no regulation, no standards, no requests for a client. But to explain to the client that we're going to test and make the demonstration that we can use low carbon concrete in Mexico. And 2 years after, we built a tower. So we made the foundation works from a tower in Mexico City with the same formulation. So that's the progresses that we are making to show that solutions are in our hands, they are available, and cost is not always the barrier that we think about.
And how do you balance that kind of that perspective of, on one side, you're looking to build and develop global construction projects and profitably grow the business, but on the other side, you've got the balancing of the cost of natural capital, soil, water, air quality. How do you balance that?
Well, definitely everything is environment is not only about carbon, so we need to make sure that we think within the planet boundaries, as Carine explained before. So definitely we need to make sure that what we provide in terms of infrastructure stick to the utility, to the function of what we do. So that means that, for instance, 80% of the buildings in Europe that are going to be used in 2025 are all in 2050, are already built. So that means that we need to renovate. We need to use urban recycling, reconvert existing buildings or existing area to another usage, etc. So that's part of what we do, to avoid indeed destroying new natural places, etc., etc. So that's why, for instance, our real estate brand has now a strategic objective of making business based off at least 50% of urban recycling. So we moved from developing new buildings, in natural areas to, partnering with industrial brands, etc. So B2C business to acquire existing used land and to be able to retrofit that for new development.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting kind of perspective. But I think I'm interested to know specifically within the construction world and the size of the organization that you've got. What are the things that we're not talking about? What are the things that we're overlooking in transformation? And almost what are the tips that you can give to people in the audience to have those awkward conversations or highlight things that need to be addressed?
We took it the tough way, I would say, by saying, well, everybody should be able to make his own decision, stick to reality on the ground, etc., etc. So by doing that, yes, there is some inertia. So that means as well that you have also to follow an incremental approach. So one step at a time. If you come up from day one with carbon, scope 1, 2, 3, avoided emission, nature, water, etc., we are just losing people. So when I say step at a time, is already addressing this complexity, but it's also just using the test and learn methodology. So let's do that in this area. Let's do another thing elsewhere, and we'll look at the feedback, return on experience, and we're going to share practice and share what's working and not. And we are doing that over the last 5 years, and it's working. So meaning also that the key word in all what we did, and really if I have one tip for every one of you, is take action. So we should stop about committing to future, etc., etc. That's great, but a company like us, we did it 5 years ago. So now it's definitely the time for action. And just do it. Even if it's not the perfect action, just start to move. Even if you do not address all the complexity in one first step, okay, it doesn't matter. And then you can make progresses. So that's...
That said, there's a lot of people in the audience who, we're very much in the echo chamber here. There are a lot of people who want to make action happen, but there is a backlash in ESG. And how do we keep momentum when things are being reversed? And how do we almost keep belief for the people who are really trying to live and breathe the action narrative day by day?
Definitely, yeah, 2025 is a complex year because of that. However, a company like us, when we decided to accelerate our environmental journey, we said we want to be ahead of the market. We want to take a proactive approach, so meaning that we used to do environment already when regulation was asking us to do, or a client directly asking us to do. But what we said 5 years ago is that it's not moving fast enough. So we need to be a step ahead and provide something on the market. So definitely still valid today. So no reason, if there is less regulation, etc., for us to change this strategy. And definitely, we do that because we are convinced, we strongly believe of this strategy as a winning strategy, not only for the planet, definitely for people living on the planet, but also for a business strategy. And when we see the enormous potential on low carbon, energy, material, circularity, etc., well, so far, I think it's a winning strategy as well for the business, definitely.
As I mentioned, I came and saw the stand earlier. That's a really great example of looking at solutions and almost trying to give different innovation organizations a bit of a platform. Tell us about the environmental awards that you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. If you have a chance to come on our stand and you'll visit and you see the 12 winners of our environmental awards. So that's really an internal competition that we launched last year. It was the second edition. And it goes together with taking action. So what we're explaining to everybody is that we have to take action. So this competition, first, is the right way to make some moves. So people had 4 months to do something and then apply on a platform. And then you have to train people in the different regions in which we operate to facilitate this competition, to be the jury, the experts, etc., etc. So that's a great way to put companies as large as us into the move of a journey. And what we wanted is really to get impact. So it's impactful solutions, both for business and for positive environmental impact. So 12 winners presented today. It's pragmatic solutions. That's what we bring to the market. And that's really a game changer for us internally. So, and having this kind of competition, it's, you are just, the only rule is the timing, in fact. So everybody has until X deadline to be able to apply, and after you cannot win anymore. So at least the competition, you still win the environmental journey. And now, so this year, the year after, the challenge is the scaling up.
Yeah.
So all the solutions that we have here are already existing, pragmatic, concrete, etc., ready to go to the market. But we are supporting them with what we call a scale-up program, definitely to help, make sure to deploy them.
How many winners of the awards are there? Because you said you got 12 different categories, or do they all get something? What do they win?
Well, they win the right to be in this program, in this support program, and have support from different, business coaches, environmental coaches, etc., to support the scaling up. And indeed, the 12 were within the different categories. So we said carbon is not the unique key in environment. So we had mitigation, adaptation, circularity with 2 stakes specifically, and then water and renaturation. So that was already some winners. We have then the grand prize is Revilo. So how to bring back nature into cities. And to be able to do that, you have to manage the soil, you have to manage the water, and to infiltrate storm water directly into the land instead of going to some networks. To think about the color and the right pavement for the soil, and then, to plant also vegetation, so to bring back nature into the city. So that's for instance, so what they win is first to be here on this stand, but then some visibility and support definitely to make this different, to now embark a sector. So it's not only a company journey, it's a sectoral journey. All of the construction, infrastructure, mobility, energy sector on the move, and that's great.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Isabelle. Really, really interesting view into such a large company. Can we get a round of applause, please, for Isabelle? Thank you. From one massive company to another. Now we have our final fireside conversation with LVMH and Grupo Florence, one of LVMH's suppliers. And we're going to be looking into how they're looking at ecological transformation. So please welcome to the stage Attila and Helene. Hello, hello. How are we doing? All good?
Yes, okay.
Keeping the energy up, I love it. Please, can you introduce yourselves? Tell us what your roles are and what your responsibilities are. And I'm interested by the first question I asked to the first panel. What have you been inspired by so far at Change Now? Helene, let's start with you.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I'm Hélène Valade. I'm in charge of the environmental strategy at LVMH. And I'm also very active outside LVMH on CSR topic. In particular, I chair the CSR Observatory, an NGO that brings together more than 100 companies, another way to work on transformation and on collective intelligence. And yes, we are in a beautiful place, and I think Change Now is this year particularly interesting because it is focused to COP30, and it is also focused to the celebration of the anniversary of the Paris Agreement. Yep. And it's probably the opportunity to take stock of what we have done and we haven't done, and also the opportunity to imagine, to create together the next steps.
Love it. Brilliant. Attila, tell us, who are you and what's your relationship to LVMH as well?
So first of all, it's working? No.
Keep chatting. Let's see. No, just speak into it. Da-da-da. There you go.
Thank you. Yeah, it's better. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to explain you what is also behind the chain of the brands, because the brands are cooperating and we feel like a strategic partner for the big brands. And I think that it's very important to understand what's happening in the supply chain. My group is working in the supply chain, which is the biggest part of impact that our sector having on the environment. So it's very important how we act in the supply chain. Group of Florence was born 4 years ago. The Italian supply chain, which is the biggest part of the luxury and fashion production, especially in the high level. The Italian supply chain is very, very fragmented. We have like 60,000 small entrepreneurs in Italy working in the luxury supply chain. So these 60,000 small companies are very fragmented. And all the issues that we have to face when we talk about sustainability are very difficult for a small company, for a small family-owned company. So in some way, I'm playing with the word. Sometimes I say that the sustainability is not so easy to be sustainable for these small companies. So what we did in Group of Florence, that we aggregated some of these excellent companies, all these companies working with the big players, mostly French players, or Italian or American players, but the French players are very important for the Made in Italy. And this cooperation is very, very important. So I'm very happy when Helen used the definition that we are strategic partners, because it means that we are more than simple suppliers. We can do something together. I give you just a couple of examples. When you want to reach any kind of target for a brand to improve the impact in environment, first of all, you have to measure where you're starting from, and then you have to give some targets. So you have to collect information. When you collect information from so fragmented supply chain, it's quite difficult for a brand to understand where I am starting from. So, which is my target? Because you have to collect a lot of information from small entrepreneurs, and this information for these small entrepreneurs is a pain when they receive this kind of request from the brand.
It must be very time intensive as well.
Because it's very difficult. So in an aggregation, what we created, we created an industrial group, and we centralized some activities. So in the single companies, we still do what we historically do in these companies, because there is a tradition in Italy to make shirts, to make denim, to make leather, to make any kind of product, knitwear, any kind of product. But then they are not specialized how to cooperate with the brand from the point of view of how to collect the information, how to give this information to the brand, because the brand needs this information. And then when you have the information, then you can make the action, how to improve. So this is just an example how a group like Group of Florence can cooperate in a higher level, like a partner with a big brand or big brands of the luxury.
And Helen, LVMH is a mammoth, complex organization. It must be full of opportunities, but it also must be full of challenges. Let's start with how you engage your supply chain to accelerate that wider ecological transformation journey. And what are the biggest challenges as part of your initiatives that you set up?
Yeah, at LVMH we have two convictions. First conviction, it is absolute. We need to transform business to face a world with plus 3 or 4 degrees Celsius, and we need to join forces to make this transformation a success. Because regarding environmental challenges, nothing can be achieved alone. We need synergies, we need collaborations, we need coalitions, and we need, in short, solidarity within our 75 maisons in LVMH, yes, and also with our suppliers. Because it's very important to support our suppliers and their transition. And it's exactly what we done with Antoine Arnaud a year ago. We announced a new action plan called Life 360 Business Partners to support our supplier in their environmental transition. And what are the biggest challenges? In other words, what are the most useful actions for our suppliers? I think the most useful is first harmonize a collection of ESG data and audits, because our suppliers waste their time answering the same question from Chanel, Hermès, Dior, and so on. And yes, we are working on this harmonization with our professional federations.
With all of the other,
yes,
brilliant.
Absolutely.
Yeah, nice.
Like Fédération de la Haute Couture et de la Mode.
Yeah.
And the second part of this new program is to share our knowledge, providing our suppliers with our own training catalog on water, biodiversity, carbon trajectories. And third, dialogue for innovation. Because I think we need to be agile to identify together the best way to improve the environmental footprint of production, of manufacturing. It is what we propose to do together. And yes, I'm very happy and very proud to be on stage with you, with one of our strategic partners.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I can add that the big challenge is to harmonize. I think this is a word that I could repeat also for my side, because the brands are trying to harmonize themselves, and a group like LVMH, of course, can help all the sector to be harmonized, because they are leaders and they can be first movers in some way from this point of view. And also inside my organization, I need to harmonize, because I am aggregating entrepreneurs. I'm aggregating very small players, talented people, number one in his niche sector of trading some materials, the leather, the knitwear, any kind of fabric. So I'm aggregating many small number ones and let them work together. Let them work together with management, because in my group, then I created some management. So I have entrepreneurs and managers in my group. All my entrepreneurs are selling their companies to the group, and then they became shareholders of the same group. So my entrepreneurs are still entrepreneurs at group level. So the challenge for me is how to harmonize this heterogeneous group, because I have managers, I have investors, some private equity helping me to make this aggregation, and I have the entrepreneurs, and I need to let them work together. So they have to have a common vision to see what we are doing. And one of the mission that we always say that we want to become a partner. So this is why I'm so happy that you recognize this in us, because we want to show that if we work together in some way, we can more easily to respond on all the challenges that the brands are asking us, because the brands need our help to make their plans, because they are going through the supply chain to implement their plans. So the challenge is very similar even from the other side.
I love that. So collaboration with competitors and harmonize, bring entrepreneurs together. Tell us about some success stories around transformation at LVMH.
I can give you many success stories with our suppliers. First, maybe with our farming and breeding partners, we have transformed the farming and livestock practices through regenerative agriculture practices. This is the case with our cotton supplier, with our wool suppliers, and moving to regenerative agriculture means organic fertilizers, means the end of the monoculture, and better soil quality that can store carbon and retain water, but introducing new practices almost leads lower yields, and it's important to compensate this, agreeing to pay more for regenerative cotton from regenerative wool. Other examples of success stories with our partners to reduce the environmental footprint of production. For example, tanneries. Tanneries are very water intensive, and we are co-innovating with our partners to reduce water consumption, or with our glass partners who manufacture the perfume bottles. We co-invest in electric ovens that allow to reduce the carbon footprint of production. And of course, success stories with our partners in fashion. In fashion, circularity is absolutely key. Yeah. Circularity means eco-design, repair, second life. And yes, I think we are at the beginning of this circularity revolution, and we are making this revolution together with our partners. We work, for example, with WeTurn, and with WeTurn we develop a system for sorting and reusing manufacturing offcuts in textiles. And we share this method with our manufacturing partners. And yes, I hope and I'm sure, especially with Grupo Florence, we'll continue to co-create, to co-innovate, to advance circularity loops in textile sectors.
I love it.
Thank you, Helen. I think from our side, the first success that I would mention is to be able to show that in Italy, in a country where everything is fragmented and apparently is impossible to make system because everybody is doing his own job and they are small, and it seems to be that they are destined to remain small. We demonstrated that it's possible to create a system. We aggregated 38 small companies. It means 38 leaders, because all these companies are leaders, sometimes second, third generation leaders on their sector. We unified these people and we created a group together, and we are able to work together. I think is a first success.
Nice.
Then I can mention one of the successes that also Helen mentioned with WeTurn. We cooperating with WeTurn. We started to cooperate with WeTurn. WeTurn is a project that is a startup that was helped and sustained by LVMH Group. So this is a project that in some way we have in common with a very good entrepreneur on the head of WeTurn. And this company was looking for an industrial partner, especially in Italy, for the project. So we made a circular project, recycling and using materials that WeTurn managed from the big brands, and we create new products from these materials. So we became a strategic partner also through this startup together. So this is another success.
Proper collaboration. I love it. Well, look, I think we've just lived and breathed the fact that you guys are coming together, small, big, really making impact. So thank you so much for sharing what it's like in such a big organization in your supply chain. Guys, if we could get a round of applause for Attila and Helen. Thank you. Thank you. Brilliant. Now, hands up if you have watched a Netflix documentary called Buy Now, The Shopping Conspiracy. Has anybody, we've got a few hands up. Nice, we've got some claps. Well, Maren Costa is one of those very, very special change makers and leaders who's not afraid to challenge corporate power and do things differently. We're in for a real treat over the next 15 minutes or so to close off our Engage to Transform panel. So welcome to the stage, Maren Costa.
On April 10th, 2020 at 3 p.m., I was fired from Amazon in a 30-second video call. Because you have chosen to break internal policies, your employment with Amazon is terminated, effective immediately. I'm ending this call. And my 15-year career was gone just like that. I wasn't surprised. I had willingly put my career on the line to challenge Amazon on climate justice and workers' rights. And I knew the risks. I had even had a warning, but at that moment I was so shocked that I think I probably stopped breathing, and you know, my heart stopped, and like I just was thinking in my head, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, this is it, this is really happening. And I, you know, from the other room, because we were all at home in 2020, all at home on lockdown, my 13-year-old son says, "Mom, were you just fired?" And I said, "Yeah, I was." He said, "Was it because of the climate stuff?" Yeah, it was. He said, "Do you have any regrets?" And I said, "No, love, none at all, because I'm doing this for you and everything we love." I thought that in my head. I didn't say that to him. That would be too much pressure for a kid. But rewind. Oh, I think I'm, what about my slides? Where are they actually? There. Sorry. There was, I was fired. And then, okay. And then, so rewind, and I was in big tech for 25 years. I worked at Adobe, Amazon, Microsoft, Google. I started as a user experience designer. I then became a strategic organizer. I started at Amazon in 2002 when there was probably exactly that number of employees there. I became Amazon's first principal user experience designer, and I changed the website so many times. I made it more inclusive, more accessible, more usable. And I worked closely with Jeff Bezos, and I earned a bunch of patents, and for a while I thought I was making good change in the world. But after I had kids, I started to ask some hard questions. Like, what is Amazon doing to protect the planet? And would Amazon even be profitable if it had to pay its workers a living wage and if it had to pay for its environmental damage? And if Amazon isn't paying, who is? I realized I had to make a choice. I could either walk away and have no impact, or I could stay and use the power and privilege of my position to try to change Amazon from within. I decided to stay, and that sent me down a path of understanding power. Who has it? What do they want? What do they value? And if we don't agree, how do we either take power or build our own? And I learned a lot along the way. I learned what doesn't work, like asking for permission, and I learned what does work. Strategic collective action. And that's people building power together to challenge the systems and the power holders who are benefiting from the systems and at the same time exploiting all of us and everything else. So today I would like to share some of what I have learned about organizing in the workplace to build power for systemic change. Because the question is not if we have the power to make the world a better place, it is whether or not we will use it before it's too late. So let's start with what doesn't work. First one, playing by the rules. We all start at a company and we think, this company is basically good, I can make change, but we think I'm going to use the company-approved channels. Every company now has a green group, right? That is, they support them, they encourage them. Amazon's green group is called Sustainability Ambassadors. And I joined that group thinking, this is where I can make change, until I realized that they were focused on things like getting paper cups into the micro kitchens. I hadn't yet understood that company-sanctioned employee groups are designed to pacify, not empower. You might find a good one out there. I haven't seen one. And corporate sustainability teams, most often their charter is to manage optics and greenwash. So the lesson I learned about playing by the rules, you can't change the system using the system's rules and tools. Number two, persuasion. This is where we think, I've got a great, bold idea, and if I just go to the power holders and I have it all laid out and I'm backed up with data and, you know, appeal to their better nature, they'll be like, wow, thank you. We hadn't thought of that. Let's do it. And I fell for that myself because I had had good luck presenting bold ideas about online shopping to Jeff Bezos many times. And as long as there was a clear through line to profit, I got that ideal result. Well, let's do it. But the minute I tried to bring ideas about Amazon being better for the climate, maybe giving customers the ability to choose more sustainable options, I had no traction. And the lesson I learned there is you can't change power with a plea. Power only responds to power. And finally, insufficient solidarity. Many tech workers, although this is changing, but many tech workers don't see themselves as workers. They kind of subscribe to the elitist, individualist ideology that permeates big tech. So they aren't part of the working class. They don't need solidarity. We knew one Amazon engineer who decided he was going to go on strike. He told his boss, I'm going to go on strike because I'm not happy with how Amazon is responding to climate. So he did, and he got fired quietly. No headlines, no ripple effect. He didn't change the company, he just lost his job. Lesson I learned there was, alone you are expendable, together we are powerful. So let's talk about what does work. Strategic nonviolent collective resistance, people joining together to build power together, to challenge the exploitative systems that we are living in and the people who benefit from them. What we know is that history tells us that collective resistance is twice as likely to be successful as nonviolent conflict and more likely to last. And you only need a small committed minority. You might have heard the 3.5 number. That's changing a bit. I just say somewhere south of 10% is all you need to be actively involved to achieve systemic change. In 2018, I co-founded Amazon Employees for Climate Justice. We were an employee group that came together to use our privilege and power as highly valued employees to pressure Amazon to be better for people and planet. And we did that. So we are widely credited with Amazon's climate pledge, which is their company-wide climate pledge to be carbon neutral by 2040, and their bid to buy 100,000 electric vans and better working conditions for the warehouse workers, and even the $10 billion Bezos Earth Fund. So how did we do that? I will tell you some of the most successful strategies that we used for collective resistance in the workplace to build real power. So the first one is start with a solid base. We started with 5 or 6 employees, and we built trust together, we shared a vision, and then we got mentorship from professional labor organizers. So grassroots organizers or labor organizers that know how to do this stuff. We built trust and we began to strategize. A great first strategy is choose a winnable first action, because the process, like most people say, once you have been a part of a winning collective resistance action, it's transformative. You, like, shifting power and feeling that change is addictive. And so we decided as a group, we said, okay, we're gonna draft a petition demanding that Amazon come up with a company-wide comprehensive climate plan, because at that time they had no plan at all. And so we turned that into a petition, and we were gonna circulate it internally and then send it to Jeff Bezos and the Amazon board, and then post it publicly as well. So in order to start getting signatures, we had to employ strategy number 3, which is set a safety in numbers threshold. Safety is incredibly important in collective resistance. Not everybody has the same capacity for risk. You have to make sure everyone is safe. In this case, with the petition, we said we promised all of the petition signers we will not publish the petition or anybody's names until we have 1,000 signatures. So nobody's out on the dance floor by themselves. Well, the day that we started circulating the petition, the signatures were just flying in. We got to 1,000 very quickly, so we sent the email to Jeff Bezos and the board, and the press picked it up, and by the end of the day, we had 8,700 signatures from tech workers saying they wanted Amazon to have a company-wide climate plan. And we knew that now, we knew they were paying attention, and a few days later, they came out with their first climate commitment. It was called Shipment Zero, and it was the plan to make half of all shipments carbon neutral by 2030. It was a start, but we were feeling like that was a big win. So then we had our solid base. We chose a winnable first action. We kept everybody safe, and that brings us to strategy number 4, which is sometimes just the threat of the action is the action. So in this case, we knew that we wanted to walk out for the global climate strike of 2019. I don't know if was anyone in that global climate strike. It was a very big movement at the time. And we decided we were going to organize our coworkers to walk out. And we quickly got to 1,700 Amazon tech workers who had pledged to walk out for the global climate strike. And we knew that number would scare Amazon, especially because the press picked it up, and we could just imagine the sweaty boardroom panic where they're thinking this would be the biggest walkout in their 25-year history and a PR nightmare. So the night before the climate pledge, or the night before the global climate strike, Jeff Bezos announced the climate pledge. Their plan to be carbon neutral by 2040, and inside sources confirmed it was our threat of 1,700 tech workers walking out that forced their hand. And of course, we didn't stop with the threat. We continued organizing, and 3,000 Amazon tech workers walked out that day for the strike from 25 cities around the world. And we knew then that we were banking significant power, which is good because the next strategy, force a choice, is one where you need some power to start with. This is where you're going to say to power holders, you want to set up a dilemma whereby they want to choose your desired outcome, or they would face greater consequences. And so I was on the day of the global climate strike, I was going to speak on stage because I was the highest leveled and longest tenured Amazonian in the group, and we knew it would be a big risk. because Amazon has an incredibly strict no external communications policy. So as an Amazon employee, you are forbidden from speaking publicly to the press about Amazon. Doesn't matter if it's in a tweet, doesn't matter if it's positive or negative, all of that breaks the policy. So since we knew that I was probably going to get possibly fired, when the warning came in that I was under investigation for deciding whether or not I still had the honor of being an Amazon employee, we had, in advance of the global climate strike, organized 400 Amazon tech workers to break the external communications policy in solidarity with me. And so when I got the warning, then we told the people who had agreed to break the policy, you can say whatever you want, we'll put it in a Medium post, it can be good or bad about Amazon, just talk about Amazon business, and it will break the policy, and we will break the policy together. So now we are saying to Amazon, you can fire 400 people and Maren, or you can fire no one. And they chose to fire no one, and that's how you force a choice. And then finally, strategy number, that's where. Finally, strategy number 6, never give up. In 2020, we were publicly supporting warehouse workers who were risking their lives just to go to work. And of course, Amazon was saying that everything was going perfectly. They are our heroes, they're essential workers. We're treating them, they have all the safety they need, which was not true. So we decided, how can we help? Let's set up a town hall between tech workers and warehouse workers. Warehouse workers can then tell their story to tech workers, and then we could help support them get the real message out. So we send out, it was a virtual town hall because we were all sent home when the pandemic started, but warehouse workers, of course, were not. But we sent out the invitation to this virtual town hall, and, I'm over. And within 2 minutes of the invitation going out, Amazon, well, first of all, 1,500 tech workers had said, yes, I want to have this conversation with the tech workers, and Amazon, in those same 2 hours, deleted the email from everybody's inbox, pulled it off their calendars, and fired me and my colleague, who were the most visible leaders of the group. But we were ready. We had we activated our networks. We alerted the press. We had lawyers on standby to fire unfair labor practice charges. And and 9 US senators wrote an open letter to Jeff Bezos saying you should not have fired those employees. And the National Labor Relations Board took Amazon to court, and we won. Amazon was required to publish nationwide in offices and warehouses that it is illegal. The firings were illegal, and workers have a right to organize without retaliation. So in closing, do I have time for closing? Okay. In closing, it's easy to feel powerless when we're confronted by overlapping existential threats and the rise of the tech oligarchy and unprecedented inequality. But the systems and greed that are powering this polycrisis can be challenged and can and must be changed. Not by playing by the rules or persuasion or going solo, and not by another treaty and a new technology and recycling, but by people like you and me coming together, building power to challenge the systems and power holders that are benefiting while destroying our planet. I experienced both the punishment and the power of collective resistance. I lost a job, but I gained a purpose and community and the strength to keep fighting with everything I have, because what good is a paycheck on a dead planet? So, we all have to think about, what we can do. I want to leave you with one question. In this world where everything we love is at risk, what are you willing to risk? Thank you.